Refer to it again. So this is the Commonplace book, Commonplace binder. I'm going to set this down, and the camera will stop shaking momentarily. So this is ways to keep a commonplace. We're looking at Commonplace Binder 101, which is a playlist of 100 videos, and as we are on video number 92, we're almost done with it, which is very exciting. So, ways to keep a commonplace normally just includes a commonplace book, although recently people have been talking about other versions, and the version that I talk about is a binder. So the main differences between a commonplace book and a commonplace binder are everything moves around or has the potential to do so, which means no page numbers, because they would change, and no index, because the index relies on the page numbers. Now, there is still a content section in the beginning. However, a content section is a little bit different than an index. So, refer to it again. Once you collect the stuff, you should probably look at it later. And so one thing that a lot of people do is they'll just write the stuff down, and then they will never actually refer to it again. So make sure to write it down and then look at it. Experimental phase. At the beginning, the stuff won't really make sense because people are saying, oh yeah, this is the arcane knowledge, this is the super secret stuff. And you might be like, okay, so where am I going to get the super secret stuff? Like, what do I, what do I do? And what you're probably going to do is you're just going to write stuff down. And regardless of how bad that stuff is, it's way better than nothing. Because if you have nothing, then there's nothing to go on. Rebuilding the concept. So sometimes it's good to have the experiment and then to make something based on the experiment. For example, this video is part of a playlist of 100 videos, and these videos are somewhat based on the stuff that I had before. Just trying to figure out exactly what people are looking for, what I have the capacity to do, and what I absolutely don't hate making. So I did a little bit of an experiment at the beginning where I just kind of made whatever videos I could, and now I'm rebuilding the concept with videos that should pretty much flesh out the subject. A tool you have. So one of the great things about having a commonplace book or a commonplace binder is you can pick it up. Whoa! That's kind of fun. Because if you have it, and people can see that you have it, it is at the very least a prop. So the thing I just picked up was my demonstration binder. I used to say it's the one that I don't really use. However, I haven't really been able to use my other ones because I've just been focused on this one, because I've just been making the videos. And I'm really looking forward to getting into the old ones, but I don't think that's going to happen, at least on like a consistent scale, until a few years from now. I'm not really happy about that, because I like to just throw myself into working on them, and I'm not going to really be able to do that until I convert the project into something that allows me to do that in the first place. But right now, you know, we're just making the skeleton before we can add on all the muscles and stuff. Get the ideas out. So if you don't tell people what you're thinking, they're probably not going to know what it is. Now, there are some situations where people can know what the other person is thinking if they've, you know, grown up with them or lived with them for like 20 years or whatever. Or if they don't have much of a personality and they say the same things as tons of other people in the same order and it's about the same stuff. And in that way, you know, you might be able to predict what they're going to say. But I think that mostly only works if they're really young or if they're really old. But I haven't really reached middle age yet, so we'll see. Showing more sides of me. So that's a lot more words than I normally include on one of these little note card, index card, flashcard kind of things. But yeah, one of the main ways to keep a commonplace is to show off all the different sides of you. So sometimes people will talk about random things from other cultures, like ikagi. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. What is it? Nihongo ga hanasemasen? Which I don't know how to speak Japanese. Yeah, I don't know any bits of Japanese. So one of the things that you could do is you could write out all your stuff in English, and then you could write it all out in Japanese if you know Japanese, or if you just think it looks cool or something. I'm not really sure why you would do that for no reason, but if you want to, that's fine. One of the other things that people seem to do, kind of for no reason sometimes, is botany. Now, it is very nice to just be like, that's a neat leaf. I guess I could hold on to that. But I don't know where I would put a leaf. If I wanted to hold on to it. Maybe I would have a leaf collection. Yeah. That would be unbelievable, right? No, we're going to move on. Respond to change. So if my hair grows, I will have to cut it at some point. But I have been cutting it myself, and I probably should have somebody else do that. I realized when I turned to the side that there's a little bit sticking out, so that's not great. But yeah, nobody really talks about the hair. I mean, it's weird to just like talk about somebody's appearance. So yeah, your project might start out as one thing and then you might change it later, and that's fine. Just do whatever you have to do. Beyond your mindset. So one of the great things about having Commonplace from another person, which I've talked about a lot in a few of the recent videos, is you can come up with an idea and then somebody else can take it from you. Now, hopefully they'll give credit, or you guys are like friends or something and it's fine. But another thing you can do, if it's just you and you're trying to write stuff down and then like quote yourself, which is a little ridiculous, but it is probably necessary at some point. What you can do is you can write the stuff down and then revisit it 3 months to 3 years later. That's the window I like to choose. If it's longer than 3 years, I'm going to forget what's going on. I'm going to misinterpret the text. If I wrote it in any way other than the most perfect way, I'm going to be a little confused by it. And, you know, time does change things. Keep doing the work. So the one thing that doesn't change is you just have to keep doing it, which is one of the reasons why I'm very frustrated that I haven't been working on my stuff, because I want to go through my old stuff. That's actually part of the reason why I've been able to make 4 of these recordings in a row rather than 2. So recently I've been making 2 recordings at a time instead of 4, and I haven't been getting them done in like one day and then doing 4 the next day and then doing 4 the day after that, because I haven't been looking through my old stuff, and it's very stressful to basically break off the relationship with myself, you know, because I will keep stuff for myself and then I will go back later to review it. And so it feels a little bit like a betrayal when I don't do the things I told myself I was going to do. So yeah, you have to keep doing the work. Always exploring. One of the great things about the summer, and for me it is summer right now, it's in July, might be near the end of July of 2025. And so we're approaching August, and it's getting very hot and humid. But this is the best time of year for me to try out other stuff. Technically, a little bit before this was the best time for me to try out little stuff, because the closer we get to what is traditionally the beginning of school, the more excited I get about this sort of thing. I'm like, ooh, I have a project. I've done this before. We got to get back to school. And it's like, when was the last time you were in school? A while ago. But it is fun to mess around with some stuff sometimes. Methodical and precise. Maybe you're going to figure out exactly when you get in the mood to do a specific thing. You're going to be like, okay, so this day, you know, May 25th of every year always goes a specific way. And so I know what's going to happen. I'm going to plan something for that specific day. Maybe you're going to plan all 365 and I guess a quarter days per year. That seems a little ridiculous. You don't really need to worry about that with the Commonplace book or Commonplace binder, because, well, if it's in a binder, you can just adjust it. Lifelong learning era. So it's not really an era if it's your entire life. I guess it's the era of you, but I don't know, that seems a little silly. So lifelong learning era, I'm really hoping we're approaching this, although I'm a little bit worried about what it means. So for example, when a young person goes on vacation, I'm very excited for them. But at the same time, a lot of people will say that they're going on a vacation when they're young because they don't think they're going to get a vacation or retirement when they're older. And so when people talk about lifelong learning, it makes me a little nervous. It makes me think that we're going to send young people to work before they would normally have finished high school. And it seems like in some states, people are already doing that. And I understand that this is more of like a middle class and an upper middle class, and also an upper class fear. But it's not really a lower class fear because they're already, you know, experiencing the horrors. Yeah. Preparing for longevity. So one of the great things about having a brain is the ability to preserve bits of it while it still functions. And so if we're all going to be living to like 100 or more than that, which I don't think we are, at least anytime soon, because even if we assume the average lifespan of a human is going to increase by 1 year every 100 years forever, it's going to take 10,000 years to get to 182. Or, well, you know, assuming it's 82. I think it's under 82. I mean, it keeps dropping, so who knows? Maybe by the time the people watching this video turn 28, maybe it'll be 28. No, probably not. I'd be very surprised if it dropped below 50. But yeah, we got to, where are we? Feels tangible. One of the great things, though, is you can pick it up. You can be like, whoa, this is my thing. And so one of the ways to keep it is just in whatever way is the most sensory, or appeals to the senses. I don't know. Me struggling with my words is probably not appealing to anyone's senses right now, but we're going to move on. Social media predictions. So I feel like the ads are getting worse. They're getting longer, they're becoming unskippable, they're at the beginning, they're at the end, they're in the middle, and they're in other places of the video. It's getting really annoying. And so maybe the objective is to just make every single account, which is a Gmail, a paid account, rather than a free account. And then maybe after that, every YouTube account is also going to become a paid account. I'm not super stoked about that, but it does feel a little bit like that's where we're headed. But yeah, I could be totally wrong about that. I didn't write that down ahead of time. I haven't really thought about that or prepped that. This is just something I had on the list of things to talk about. Doing it on the go. So sometimes just making things up on the fly is not really going to work out super well. And if you have this tool, you know, a tool you have, you might kind of end up reliant on it. Now, it's probably better to be reliant on a handwritten book that you made yourself than a multi-billion-dollar company's proprietary software. Because, you know, they might just lock somebody out or go bankrupt or sell off their model or whatever else. But who knows? Gathering helpful information. So regardless of what you do, it's probably good to hold on to the things that have been helpful. Now, there's some things for me that are very helpful that I haven't been doing because I haven't been focusing on my stuff. So one thing I used to do is I would prepare a bunch of information for whenever I would go to, you know, the doctor or the dentist or whatever else. And so when I would go to the place, I'd just be like, okay, I need to prep for 30 minutes beforehand. I could bring a little bit of paper with me if I need to, but for the most part, we're just going to show up and we're going to give them all the information they ask for. And sometimes people find that very surprising. They're like, why do you know all of this? So I don't know if it's because I'm younger than a lot of the people who come in with proper information or what, but some people can be very surprised by that sometimes. Journal. So a lot of the stuff I'm talking about seems to be talking about something more like journaling than traditional commonplacing. And part of that is because there are many ways to keep a commonplace, like as a binder. But if you don't know what to do, you could always just start with some journaling. So you just write down, I am journaling, I don't know what I am doing, blah, 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 and then end it for the day, and come back to it the next day. How to set up. So I feel like I always talk about how to set this up. If you're working in a binder, you need a binder. If you have a binder, it probably has rings. If you have rings, you will need to put stuff in the rings. And this paper doesn't come with holes in it already. So you need to have a hole puncher to hole punch the page to put them in the rings. We are going to need to write something on the paper. That means we need a writing utensil of some sort. So I use a pencil normally. These are some little marker marks because I didn't have color beforehand. It was just white note cards, which was kind of ridiculous. But yeah, I normally use a pencil. That way I can erase things and it just feels less permanent. And that means I'm a lot more confident when it comes to just like screwing around. Yeah, so the things on the tabs here are the same things as here and here. And that stuff is just whatever's written at the top of the page. So I have some videos where I go into that a little bit more in depth. If you want to, you can search for those. I don't have those top of mind right now. But yeah, maybe that's because I need to declutter my thoughts. And if you want to watch a video on how to declutter, probably using a Commonplace book, then check the next video. Bye!